So there's this debate around whether speech or language can be a form of violence, which clearly brings it into the kind of realm of power. So what's your view on that question of whether speech can be a form of violence?
I think, and this is just my judgment, you can overuse the word violence. I prefer violence to be about either physical impact or, if it's emotional, for it to be searing and damaging and lasting in a way that's truly and unexceptionably analogous to being physically hurt. But there's a such thing as being harassed, certainly, and so free speech alone would be a barbaric standard in society, because if someone is going to say something obnoxious again and again and again, probably physically close to you, like a drum beat, there's a difference between free speech and that. And at least in America, most of the leading doctrines about free speech specify that there's a point at which free speech can be legitimately classified as harassment and therefore barred from civilized discourse. And of course, where do you draw the line? But that's frankly an issue in anything remotely interesting. And the main thing is that free speech versus harm is the way I tend to think of it.
So there was one argument put forward for the idea that speech can be a form of violence based on essentially how the brain physiologically responds to hate speech in this case. So this was Lisa Feldman Barrett in a New York Times piece a few years ago saying, yes, speech can be violence because of this kind of, you get a burst of neurotransmitters that are going to actually, over time, cause some kind of stress
over time.
Response.
Yeah. I mean, for example, profanity. If you say a profanity and you erupt with something, that comes from a different part of the brain, the right part of the brain, rather than the left part. It's not actually speech. And so if I say, "What the hell is that?" Notice that sentence doesn't parse. What the hell is that? What does hell mean? Why is it the? It's because it's not grammar, it's an eruption. And that's also true of what you can probably substitute for hell there. It certainly doesn't mean what that word literally means in the dictionary sense. It means, oh! That's what it is. And so that is also true of how you receive these words. And so you can receive these words not the way you would receive yesterday or already or emancipation or parcel or a word. You receive them as being smacked. Now, in real life, you are going to be verbally smacked now and then, is my sense. Raising children, one thing that I have enjoyed about my 10 and my 13-year-old is that verbally they don't bruise easily. Because I remember thinking, I'm going to need to teach them that life is going to go bap sometimes, and you just have to move on. But if it goes bap, 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 bap over and over again, then yes, you're being harmed. And next thing you know, you have a kind of I don't like to use this word trauma the way we're using it, but language changes and maybe I need to accept it. But lasting damage.